Yes, once again, very warm welcome in listenings for my e-lecture. Today we are going to start a new topic that comes under the umbrella of sociolinguistics. As we have already discussed number of topics under sociolinguistics, like what is sociolinguistics, what is the scope of sociolinguistics, how we choose different varieties, different codes in different domains of language, what are certain factors. So these are different topics that we have already covered, but today we'll focus on language change. When we say change, change is something that can be observed in each and every aspect of life. Change is something that is, nothing is permanent in this life except change. Change is an inevitable part of life. Change is an irreversible law of nature. So the same case is with the language. Language also faces certain changes. Certain changes take place in language. When we say language is a living phenomena, it means that language, just like other human beings take birth, live in this world, and with the passage of time keep on changing and then die. In the same way, language takes birth, lives in this society, and certain changings occur in the language, and then there may be a time when languages die. That's another concept of language death or language endangerment or language loss. But the point is that language changes. Now a question arises whether language changes gradually, or what are different factors behind the language change. Either these are only social factors, economic factors, or regional factors, or certain ethnographical identities, or certain other factors like migration. If people migrate from one place to another place, what kind of migrations that contribute in the language change. Rather, language change is something positive or negative. Should it be taken as curse, or it should be taken as blessing? So these are different topics that we'll discuss in this video in detail, and apart from these factors, we will also see that whether these changes occur at which level of the language, whether these changes occur only at sound level, or even at morphological level, or word level, or class level, or sentence level, or even vocabulary. The semantic level of the language also has something to do with the language change. So all these kind of changings and all these factors that work behind the language change, we will look in detail. So stay connected with Lisanix. Don't go anywhere. So let's get started. Welcome in Lisanix for my lecture. Today I'm going to talk about an important topic which comes under sociolinguistics, and that interesting topic is language change. So first of all, I'll explain the definition of language change and how we have different views about the language change, and then different types of language change, and certain other forces that work behind the language change. So first of all, let me define what is language change. When we talk about the definition of language change, this is the change of the forms of language over time. I have uttered the word forms. Forms of language means sound of language, and the morphological structure, syntactic structure, and lexical, that means vocabulary of the language, meanings of the language. All these things are considered as the form of language. So the change in the form of language means change in sounds of language, change in syntactic structure of language, change in lexical choices, lexemes, vocabulary of the language, and change in the meaning of language with the passage of time. Before to explain what are different types of language change, let me tell you that there is diversity of opinion regarding the change of language. Some people who are considered as language purists, they have different view as compared to the view of linguists. Language purists, as the term suggests, that they are in the favor to keep the language in its pure form. They resist, they are against the language change. And on the other hand, linguists reject the purist view. They are of the view that all the languages are equal. Linguists hold that all the languages are equal, so there is no reason to believe that language change can undermine the adequacy of English or any other language. as language purists are of the view that if language changes, automatically the adequacy will be undermined of that particular language. But linguists are against this view. It is very difficult to observe language change while it is occurring. So how we observe language change? We observe language change on the basis of the results, on the basis of the consequences. So language change occurs at different levels. It occurs at the level of sometime classroom, sometime at the level of discourse, grammar, structure, vocabulary, and pronunciations. So with the passage of time, we also classify language change. One is diachronic change and the other one is synchronic change. And as you are familiar with these two terms, diachronic language and diachronic study of language, and synchronic study of, diachronic means the historical study of language. So diachronic change means the change of language within the passage, with the passage of time, historical change of language. On the other hand, yes, synchronic change, that refers to language change within the given time, within the given frame of work of time. Yes. So when we talk about the diachronic change of language, historical change in language, it is generally divided into three periods or four periods. For example, first one is the period that is related to language change, that is Old English period, and then that goes from middle of the 5th century to 11th century, and next Middle English, that starts from 11th century and goes to 1500 century, and then we have early modern period that goes till 1800 century, and then further we have late modern English. So these are four periods in which we observe different kind of changes. So this is the diachronic kind of change that exists. There is another view regarding the language change that is given by Ferdinand de Saussure and Bloomfield. They are of the view that most linguists have maintained that change itself cannot be observed, right? And all we can possibly hope to observe are the consequences of the change. As I have already explained, that this is not possible to observe the language change at the very moment when it is happening, right? So consequences from the results, we hypothesize and we analyze that this is how language changed diachronically. So sometimes change occurs within the structure of language, and sometimes some words are borrowed from another language in the form of borrowing, right? As you know, different languages are the mixture of certain languages. Sometimes words are borrowed, complete words are borrowed from other languages, and sometimes some parts of the inflections or derivations, prefixes and suffixes are borrowed from other languages. And there are number of examples we see in history. So on the basis of these kind of changes, whether there is internal change or there is external, we have also classified internal change and external change. Internal change, which occurs within a speech community, generally among the monolingual speakers. Internal changes occur within the speech community. On most of the time, that speech community consists of monolingual speakers, and external change may occur in the community of bilingual speakers. And bilingual means those people who are capable of using two languages, right? In the same way, we have more than two languages, those people are considered as multilingual people. So borrowing, when we borrow some words from other language and changes take place in the language, this kind of change is called as external change. Yes. And yes, another view regarding the change that is given by William Lebov, and he is also considered as father of sociolinguistics. He has given two terms, that change from above and change from below. Apparently, it seems that it is related to socio-economic factor, but this is not related to social factors. It has nothing to do with social economic status, that the changes which occur from upper strata of society, and those changes are called as change from above and lower strata below. No, nothing like this. This is related to the degree of conscious level which is involved in the process of change. So when we talk about the change from, yes, when we talk about the change from above, it means that speakers are consciously aware that what's going on in language change, and they can comment on this linguistic innovations. On the other hand, change from below, it denotes that linguistic change in speech community below the level of speakers consciousness. So these two terms are related to the degree or the level of consciousness which is involved in the process of change. So in change from below, we see that in this case speakers are not consciously aware of a linguistic change in progress in a community. In change from above, speakers are consciously aware, but change from below, speakers are not consciously aware. This is the difference between change from above and change from below. Then we have different types of language change. As while defining this term language change, I have told you the change in the form of language, and form of language means pronunciation, form of language means different syntactic structure, grammar and certain other aspects of language. So first of all, we would see that how different changings occur in sounds, and this kind of change is called as phonological change. When we speak the word phonology, it means that the study of human speech sound of a particular language. When we speak the word phonetics, that is related to human speech sound at general level. So phonology, it is all about the human speech sound of a particular language. It means we are talking about a particular language sound, how those sounds are changed with the passage of time, diachronically, or within a given frame of word, that is synchronic kind of change. And it may be internal change, it may be an external change, it may be change from above, or it may be change from below. All these three possibilities may occur at every level of language change. So we see, when we talk about the language change at sound level, it means that sounds are have been classified into consonants and vowels, and some sounds which are pronounced with the obstruction in the air, in our vocal track, those sounds are called as consonants. So we see, and free of passage, if sounds are produced free of obstruction, free of obstacles, right, those sounds are considered as vowel sounds, right? So we have categorizations, we have classified certain sounds, short vowel sounds and long vowel sounds and diphthongs. So sometimes we see short vowel sound is changed into long vowel or changed into diphthong, right? So these kind of changes are related to phonology. And another ways we have, in phonology, in suprasegmental phonology, that is related to above the level of phoneme, above the level of sounds. We study syllables and certain other aspects of sounds above the level of consonants, so above the level of phonemes. Yes, so sometimes the stress pattern is changed with the passage of time. Sometimes a particular sound is omitted with the passage of time. So these are certain possibilities which we may have in the process of phonological change. Let me give you one example, that in Old English the word was moose. Moose means here we have oo as a long vowel, but later on in modern English we use the word mouse. So oo vowel has been changed into ow as a diphthong. That's the combination of two vowels where first vowel glides towards second. In the same way, the word house, as we pronounce it, has diphthong, but in Old English it was pronounced like whose, and it means it has long vowel. But now that long vowel is changed and now it is pronounced as house. So this is one of the example of phonological change, and certain other examples of grammatical changes. When we talk about the grammar, it means morphology and syntax are the two wings of grammar. What does mean by syntax? The science of Sentence structure, particular space, particular place of particular word in a sentence. What is particular slot of a particular word enjoys in a specific sentence? This is what we call as a syntax, right? Science of sentence structure. So we see, for example, now we use not before the main verb. For example, we say we do not sing. We do not sing. So sing is the main verb, and before this sing we use not. But in old English, if you analyze the English of old period, you would see that the word not was used after the main verb. So you see there is difference of grammar in old English and the modern English. So this is how certain grammatical changes occur with the passage of time. Another change, that is lexical change, right? Change related to vocabulary, right? And this change may be in the form of words. New words are created, right? And sometime the meaning of an existing words is also changed if we talk about the semantic change. And sometimes spellings are changed of the existing words with the passage of time. For example, the word saw, it has got different spellings in old English, but now we have different spellings. So change in vocabulary or lexical change, maybe sometime, as I have earlier mentioned, that words are borrowed from other languages. Sometime we form new words depending upon some existing patterns of the language, and those existing patterns in every language allow us to form different new words, and that becomes the source of change in particular language. And what are those some different ways how we form new words in English language? And one of those methods is affixation. It is the process of attaching prefixes or suffixes with the root word, basic word. Sometimes we add prefix and sometimes we add suffix. As you know, the word is for example establishment, so we can also add disestablishment, anti-disestablishment, or we can also add suffix which always comes at the end of the root word, that is establishmentarianism. And the longest word of English language, that is nomen ultra microscopic silicoval conconiosis, right? Nomen ultra microscopic silicoval conconiosis. And you can search this word from YouTube. And another longest word, so all these that is honorificabilitudinitativus, right? So these words have been formed with the help of this technique of affixation, certain prefixes and of suffixes and prefixes. And in some languages we also see infixes within the root word. In the middle of the root word, certain infixes are added to form a new words. Another method, that is compound. Two independent words are joined to form a new word, that is called compound word. For example, book and shop, these are two independent words, and we joined and we got the word bookshop. And there are many other examples, right? Second hand, this thing is second hand. Second is a different independent root word, and hand is, so by joining these two we got the word second hand. Dishwasher and many other. Blending, this is another technique. What does it mean? Blending means that we form a new words by joining two different parts of different words. Sometimes we take initial part of a single word and final part of an other word. For example, we have one word as breakfast, and the other word we have lunch. So breakfast, br, we have taken this initial part and final part of the other word, that is lunch, and the new word that we formed, that is brunch. In the same way, motel, right? And many other examples can be quoted, like information and entertainment. So we took the word initial part of the information, that is info, and entertainment, and it became infotainment. In the same way, edutainment. So number of words can be formed by using this concept, blending. Another concept is clipping. So we clip the word, we make the words in short form, right? So for example, the complete word is influenza, so we change it into only flu word. So this is the clipped form of the word flu, is the clipped form of influenza. Conversion, sometimes one word is used in particular language within the context of one grammatical category. For example, only being a noun, the word is considered as a noun. But when we change the category, the same word can be utilized as the verb. For example, face, this is noun, but we can also use it, we can change the grammatical category of this word, right? For example, we can say you will have to face the bitter realities of life. I am facing much in this life. So this is how we can convert the grammatical category. Category mean different parts of speech that we have in different languages. So this is how we can uh, bring change in lexical. Semantic change, this change is related to change in meaning. As you know, there are two types of meaning. One is denotative meaning and the other one is connotative meaning. Denotative means dictionary meaning, literal meaning, that has nothing to do with context. For example, let me give you example of chair. Chair is made of wood having four legs, and this is used for sitting. This is the literal meaning. But when we use this chair in a particular context, we may call it as a symbol of power, as a symbol of grace, as a symbol of authority. So all these meanings are related to context. So contextual meaning. Semantic change is related to literal meaning. For example, there was a time when the word ignorant, right? Ignorant was meant as, sorry, nice means, in previous, in old English or in middle, it was meant as ignorant, but now meanings are totally changed. You are totally surprised that these are interesting examples. Now when we want to appreciate someone, when we want to encourage someone, when we see the plus point in someone, we say that's the nice, right? But in previous ages, nice word was used to abuse someone. In the same way, the word starve, right? In past, the word starve was meant only that to die, but now the word starve is only used die with hunger. In the same way, meat, right? Now we mean meat food, but now it means food from animal flesh. There was a time when meat people used to consider any kind of food, but now meat only means as the flesh which we can get from. In the same, yes, silly now, a mad person is considered as a silly, you are very silly. But in previous time, this word was meant as happy. In the same way, there are a number of other examples. For example, bonnet, right? First, bonnet, uh, its meaning was like a man's hat, the cap hat, right? But now we use the word bonnet for a car engine's cover. In the same way, the word we have, yes, furniture. For example, furniture. In old time, furniture means any equipment which was considered as old. We used this word only for old equipment, but now we use this word for chair and table. So these are different types of language change. And now we would see what are different factors, what are different forces that work behind language change. And those forces, let me give you briefly. First one is economy. Economy doesn't mean that you have money. No, it doesn't mean. Economy means convenience. Sometime on the basis of phonological convenience, morphological convenience, syntactic convenience, sounds are omitted, right? Structure is changed for the sake of convenience of the speaker. Language is changed. Another factor that is related to, that works behind the language change, that is the analogy. As you know, there were different design features given by Hackett, right? And out of those design features, one is productivity. Every language is capable to form new words, sometime on the basis of their existing patterns and It means that there is a natural tendency in every language to create or to produce new words. So this natural capability, this natural tendency towards the language also enables language to bring certain changes. And another factor behind the language change, that is the language contact. Just 1 minute please. Language contacts, different people come into contact, different languages come into contact. Of course, there becomes a mixture of certain languages and some codes are transferred into each other. So that mixing up of the language is that may be on the basis of certain social factors, economic factors, and there may be colonizations and certain invasions, and there may be interstate marriages. So these are different factors which work behind language contexts. So group differentiation, as we see, there is classification, stratification of the society. Society has been divided into different status, so upper class, lower class, middle class. So people want to identify themselves as the part of the higher class. That is why they try to use that language, that the language of economic, language of administration, language of power. So in the same way, the lower strata also try to imitate those people. They also want to become the part of the upper class. And this is how we see. Another, we see generation gap. For example, the lower generation are that contributes a lot in language change. Sometimes we also see the change in technology. If we analyze the language of our forefathers, you don't have any word like internet, Facebook, Twitter. What is the reason behind this? At that time, this technology was not introduced. Of course, when new technology will be invented, discovered, introduced, and people will have to name that technology in the same way, it means that technological advancement is also one of the factor of language change. Sometimes we deliberately, we consciously bring change in the language. For example, for physically handicapped people, and this particular word handicap was a source of torture. It was a very teasing word for those people. So instead of using this abusive words, instead of using these kind of words, people realized the importance and they changed the words and they started saying mentally challenged people and those people who have special needs. And another word that refers to gender discrimination, that was a chairperson, chairman. The only word was chairman. So people realized that why can't a woman can enjoy this status? So they changed the word and the word became chairperson. And now this is gender free and gender biased free words. In the same way, there are a number of other words which can be quoted. Socio-economic factors, this is also another factor that people migrate to other countries from one place to another place. For example, here from Pakistan, people move to Canada, America, and certain other countries in order to improve their social status, economic status, and over there they have to come across with certain other languages. So change occur in language, right? And dialectical changes, there are different dialects when they mix up together and people have to bring. And gender change, this is of course another important. Very sorry, I'm quickly explaining all these terms because my friends are waiting for me. So gender change, so, gender is a social phenomena, and the another word is that is used as sex, that is the biological phenomena. So gender wise, we have different associations with language. Males have got different language, syntactic structure of males are different, and phonological structures and certain other aspects of language are totally changed regarding the male use of language and female use. So it is also responsible for language change in society. So this is all about language change in the form of language with the passage of time, in a given time. Then we talked about different views on language change, and then we talked about different types of language change and what are different factors. I hope this will be very helpful and beneficial for you. If you think that this is beneficial and helpful for you, you can share it. And if you have any query, any problem, any confusion, you can ask in comment box. Thank you so much. Have a very nice